keep coming
Just
in and
like
out.
people,
My
animals can
cats keep
suffer
knocking
from
my internet
stress
box
if
off.
things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag. In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barrier by their cave for one-way glass. It's not a cheap option, but I think they're worth the expense, don't you? This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go when they want to get away from the prying eyes of the guests.
Flash.
Of course, when an animal isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going to be too hot or too cold. Unsurprisingly for the snow leopards, it's too hot. Even with the terrible British weather. You should help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat. As you can see, we already have one cooler in there. Let's pop some more down and get as much of the habitat as chilly as we can. Luckily for us, this habitat already has power, but you'll need to make sure of that in the future. Just so you know, if any part of a habitat is powered, then the whole habitat will be powered. You can find heat maps for all sorts of helpful things, so do be sure to explore them and make good use of them. It'll take a little while for the temperature to adjust once you've added coolers or heaters, but now we've got the coolers in, we can address the leopard's terrain welfare. You see, what the leopard's really wanting here is snow and rock, so let's make that happen. Well then, all of that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to make animals happy. So I'd like you to go and check on all the other animals in the zoo and fix up any issues with their habitats. That'll increase the average welfare of the animals across the whole zoo. And that average welfare is a very important statistic. Now, to quickly see how all your animals are doing in the zoo, you should head to the animal section of the zoo management screen.
Finish that one.
Not bad. Not bad at all. I think it's fair to say that you've passed the first part of your training with flying colours. There's still lots more to learn.
Welcome to Madagascar. It's quite the change of scenery from dreary old England, huh? Apart from the weather, I suppose. They don't call these places rainforests for nothing. The zoo you'll be working in is an ape sanctuary, where we're doing vitally important conservation work. Not just for apes, but for all kinds of species. But apes, well, apes are some of the closest relatives to humans there are. And yet, the way the world treats them is like, well, very much like some of us treat our actual relatives. Anyway, that's why I'm determined that our operation here does some good. If we can all leave some part of the world in a better state than we found it, we'll have lived lives worth living. And speaking of states, I have a horrible feeling I left the house in a right one. When I get back, I expect my life won't be worth living at all.
What do you think of Madagascar, then? Bit warm for my taste, to be honest. Anyway, this is Bernie's primate sanctuary. It's not just primates, though. We've got all sorts of animals. So why don't we go and have a look at some of them, eh? We'll start by taking a look at the red-ruffed lemurs. They're the ones that look like they should be in a Shakespeare play. Come on, let's head over to them.
Go. Just take a look around real quick. How do you get into this zoo? Over here, huh?
Red-ruffed lemurs are found in the rainforests of Masoala. That's in northeast Madagascar. They can actually live anywhere from 15 up to 25 years. Fancy that, eh? Okay, when you're ready, let's go find our Bornean orangutans. The Bornean orangutan is such a marvellous creature. They're always a big favourite at any zoo they feature in, and they're also the biggest tree-dwelling animal on the planet. Assuming you don't count any lions that got stuck up one. Oh, why don't you take a better look at them? Open up their information panel and go into the animal camera. Aren't they just incredible? When you're ready, let's go and have a look-see at some of our beautiful bonobos. They're quite the characters. Oh dear! It looks like we've arrived just in time. One of the habitat's barriers has collapsed. And wouldn't you know it, one of the bonobos has made a run for it. We'll need to catch them. But before we do, we should box up the other bonobos to stop them escaping too. Select the habitat boundary to bring up the habitat information panel. Good. Now open the Animals tab. Box up the remaining bonobos with Box All Animals. Now, we'll need a vet to recapture that escaped bonobo, but it seems our last one left to do some research in the wild. Not an ideal situation. So, we'll need to hire a replacement, Sharpish. Go into the Staff tab of the browser. You can find all of your staff in here, but there's no time to go looking at their particulars at the moment. Hire a vet. Great. Now let's deal with our escapee before they can cause too much havoc. Use the animal alerts to jump to the escaped bonobo.
go.
Then press Call Vet to... Yep, you guessed it. Call the vet over to capture it. Okay, that's the relief. So while the vet deals with our bonobo friend, let's go fix up their habitat so they can't escape again. Head back over there. As you can see, the barrier's collapsed. Someone's taken their eye off the ball, obviously. Let's get this one replaced. Select the barrier and then we'll edit it. Delete the broken section of barrier and replace it with a brand spanking new one.
All right, stop. Good. Now that we've done that, we need to make sure to add climb-proof barriers to the top. That way the bonobos won't be able to climb out. Just make sure you've got the correct piece of barrier selected when you do that. This is what gets me. Okay, so go into the options section and select which side the climb-proof barrier needs to go on. And don't get it wrong. We're more worried about bonobos climbing out than guests climbing in.
Good.
Nicely done. And I think it's high time we unboxed those bonobos, wouldn't you say? The poor mites will get sad if we leave them in there for too long. Select the habitat barrier to bring up the habitat information panel again.
Shit.
So, it turns out that as well as the old vet leaving, the zoo's mechanics did too. We'll need to hire a couple of new ones so we can help stop any more breakouts. You see, mechanics do all sorts of helpful things around the zoo, but one of their most important jobs is taking care of the habitat barriers. Without mechanics around to repair them, the barriers will crack, crumble, and fall down. And before you know it, we'll be overrun with escaped animals. Head into the staff tab of the browser again. Oh, gosh, we have been busy, haven't we? Good work there. I'm off for a cuppa. Oh, I think Bernie wants a word with you.
Oh, I hear you had a bit of an issue with an escaped bonobo. The main thing is that you dealt with it swiftly. And more importantly, without the animal stealing someone's clothes, putting them on, and then walking out of the front gate.
You see, another key responsibility for our vets is animal research. Researching animals allows vets to unlock new enrichment items, additional information for our education resources, enhanced breeding programs, and improvements to food quality. The animals' food, not the vets. It'll take more than a research grant to improve the staff canteen. Anyway, as you can see, research is a key part of running your zoo. In order for a vet to undertake research, they require a research centre. And once again, that's something that this zoo is missing. So let's build one. I've marked out an area for you to put it. Now, you've probably noticed that there's already a building where I want you to build the research centre. Don't worry. You see, the building that's currently there is actually a hollow shell. So we're able to place our new building inside of it. If you select the research centre for placement and then hover over the shell, you'll see that it asks if you want to add the research centre to the existing building. Now, select the building to add it to it. Oh, but that won't place it just yet, though. First, we'll need to rotate our research centre so it automatically connects to the path when we place it.
Get it.
Splendid work. Now that we have a brand spanking new research centre, we can give our vets something to do in there. Oh, by the way, it's worth noting that the vets will only do research when they're not required to do any other jobs. That said, you can change what jobs a vet does via their information panel. But let's not worry about that just now. So, let's get our vet researching ring-tailed lemurs. Pop open the access menu, head into Zoo Management, then go to the vet research section. Here, you can see a list of all the animals present in your zoo, and also all the potential diseases that can occur. Now, assign your vet the ring-tailed lemur to start their research. Actually, thinking about it, I'm not sure we've got any education boards or speakers by the lemur's habitat. Let's head over there and add some, so our guests can learn all about the furry little delights. First off, let's pop down 2 education boards. Place them on the habitat barriers at a height that guests can see, or, if you like, pop them down on a stand. Okay, now that they've been put into position, we have to tell them what animal to display information about. Select one of the education boards to bring up its information panel. And from the drop-down list, select ring-tailed lemur. Although I'm sure that last part was obvious. When you link an education board or a speaker to an animal, you need to make sure that said animal is close by. If it isn't, the guests will get confused and won't learn as much. Okay, now that we've done the education boards, let's pop down a pair of speakers. Speakers play audio to the guests so they can learn while they look at the animals, instead of having to go through the laborious process of reading. Oh, one thing to bear in mind is that it's important not to put the speakers too close together. If you do, the guests won't be able to understand what's being said. Now we simply need to link the speakers to the ring-tailed lemurs, just like you did with the education boards. Fantastic. Oh, it's worth remembering that education boards and speakers both need power to work. They won't do much good without it.
Oh, it looks as though our vet has completed their research on ring-tailed lemurs. We'll need to collect the results. Head back into the vet research area to take a look at their findings.
Go on, collect your research rewards.
Just so you know, vets will continue to research an animal even after successfully completing a research level.
I suppose when you're in the zone, you're in the zone. Well, now that we've enriched the lives of our guests, let's enrich the lives of our ring-tailed lemurs. Some animals, like lemurs, will have a climbing need. That means they have a requirement for a certain amount of climbing space, and you can fulfill that requirement by building them a climbing frame. Let's find out how much more climbing space our lemur friends need, shall we? Select one of them and bring up their information panel.
Well, they
Oh, that's a great climbing frame for them. They're going to absolutely love it.
Do you know what would make them even happier, though?
Nicer food. But that's true of all of us, though, isn't it?
You can unlock better quality food for animals through research.
Luckily, we've already unlocked some for the lemurs, so all that remains is to make sure they get served it from now on.
Let's bring up the habitat information panel by selecting the lemur habitat.
Lovely. Now select the Animals tab.
There we go. As you can see, we can set the food quality in here. Just open the drop-down menu and select Grade 2 Food Quality.
Grade 2 food quality. My mouth's watering already. So, a new climbing frame and better food. Oh, you've really spoilt those lemurs rotten. Now, I think it's time we looked at one of the zoo's most important responsibilities. Releasing animals into the wild. You see, when we feel an animal is ready, we can release them into the wild. But what makes an animal a good candidate for release? Well, their age is an important factor. I mean, we can't release an animal that's a juvenile, just as we can't release one that's gotten too old. They'll also need to be fertile. After all, the idea is to repopulate the wild, so the best candidates will have a high fertility gene. And together, the age and fertility of a candidate will determine how many conservation credits we'll be rewarded when we release them. Now, conservation credits are vitally important. They're the lifeblood of your zoo, because earning them allows you to adopt even more animals. And what's more, the animals you can adopt will be of a higher quality. So, with that in mind, let's pop over to our orangutan habitat. I'd like you to find Agang, the Bornean orangutan in the habitat, and select him, please. You can go through each orangutan in turn, or select the habitat barrier, go to the Animals tab in the Habitat Information panel, and find him in the Animals list. I know it's sad to see him go, but he'll be happy out in the wild. And he's a wonderful candidate for release. Young, strong, and fertile. Excellent work there. You've definitely got potential, you know.
Ah, I see you've been doing some homework. Although, it hardly seems like work when you're learning about something as adorable as a ring-tailed lemur. I imagine I'd have got much better grades at school if there'd been less algebra and more aldebra. Tortoises.
Okay, so far we've done a lot of work with habitat animals, but now it's time to learn all about exhibit animals. Let's build a brand new exhibit. I've marked an area for our new exhibit. How about we head over there?
Let me see something here. Can you turn off the
Lovely. Now let's build a new exhibit in the gap that's been left. Just add it to the building like we did with the research centre earlier. Then pop it into the gap.
Oh.
Perfect. The next thing to do is adopt an exhibit animal to go in there. How about a Gila monster? Open up the exhibit trading section and adopt one.
Oh, okay, so you buy some cash, and when you buy with cash, you pay release. Interesting. This game is not way different than Planet Coaster. Controls are familiarly the same, but there's a lot more aspects to the game that you got to get to learn. A lot more.
Just as we do with habitat animals, we need to send the Gila monster to the exhibit. Select the exhibit to send it there. When you send an animal to an exhibit, it'll automatically be given the correct setup. But that doesn't mean it's completely ready for them. So let's finish it off. We'll start by adding some enrichment items. Head over to the exhibit's information panel. Good. Now open the layout tab. Oh, well, it looks like we've only got the enrichment level 1 items unlocked at the moment. Never mind, let's turn on at least one of them for the Gila monster. As I'm sure you know by now, you can unlock more enrichment levels by having one of your vets do some research. Now we'll also need to set the temperature and humidity in the exhibit. These are vitally important for keeping our Gila monster happy and comfortable. Open the Climate tab. Here you can see the Gila monster's desired temperature and humidity. You can change both of these by adjusting the dials below. Make sure it's going to be nice and cozy.
Very complex.
That's the ticket. And
There
the
we
last
go.
thing we need to look at is setting up the different windows. So open up the Windows tab. There's also an exhibit education board. Pop them down near your exhibits to teach your guests about them. Let's add one now.
What?
Just like the education boards and speakers we put down for the ring-tailed lemurs, you'll need to link these to the Gila monster. Go on. Lovely stuff. Now our guests can learn all about our venomous friend here. Right, now, I've got a bit of a big job for you. I need you to increase the number of species in the zoo. You'll probably want to adopt both habitat and exhibit animals to do so, which will mean building plenty of new habitats and exhibits for them.
Faint Planet
Come on,
Coaster
off you
music.
pop. I'll check in with you when you're almost done.
Nine different species. 3 different species. Okay. Let's do this. So. I know it's gonna look horrible, but at the end they have 12 different species. I'm trying to unlock everything so I can get when I start doing the same. Let's see. Stay alive. Oh shit. I'll figure this out later. Bye folks. I'll make a video about that.